What goes into a law school diversity statement? And do you even need to write one? This video is going to touch on what goes into a law school diversity statement. And for those of you who are new, my name is Sydney Montgomery. I'm the CEO of Montgomery Admissions Consulting, where I specialize in working with first generation and minority law school applicants. And today we're talking about diversity statements, which most first generation and minority applicants should write. But they're not the only people that should write them. In fact, I believe that most people can benefit from writing a diversity statement. And that's why I want to walk you through what actually goes into a law school diversity statement. We're going to cover what it is and what it's not. What counts as diversity? What does that term really mean? And then we're going to talk about the takeaway. What's the point? Why do law schools want you to write a diversity statement or give you the option to write a diversity statement? And what's the so what at the end of your essay? And of course, we'll just cover the basics. How long is it? How should it be formatted? And what kind of writing style do you want to be looking out for in your diversity statement? So let's address those questions first. Your diversity statement should be one-page, double-spaced standard fonts. It should, in the first paragraph or so, let me know what it is that you are defining as your diversity, how it's impacted you, ideally through narrative writing, through the imagery, through anecdotes and examples, although it's short, so not too many, and then the takeaway, the so what, how your experience has given you a different perspective such that it would contribute to the law school community. So, that first point though, what is a diversity statement and what is it not? The diversity statement in your law school applications is your chance to authentically explain or demonstrate to admissions a piece of you, an identity, an experience that has so profoundly shaped how you view the world. Something that's not in your personal statement. Something that if you were to turn in your applications with only your personal statement, but not a diversity statement, admissions would not know the full you. They would be missing a core element of who you are. The diversity statement is there because law schools want to know and make sure that they are giving space for you to fully tell your authentic story and identity, even if your identity or core perspective doesn't necessarily fit into your narrative about why you want to go to law school. A diversity statement is your chance to show admissions how your experiences contribute to the way that you interact with others, the way that you move through the world, the way that you think about yourself, the way that you might think about issues differently than other people. The reason is when you think about it, in a law school, you will be in a classroom and there's the Socratic method, and you will be engaged in discussions about the reasonableness of law, the reasonableness of our legal framework, and they want discussions that are rich, discussions that are complex, and discussions that have students that speak from a variety of vantage points. They don't want everyone talking who only has the same experiences as each other, because then it's like an echo chamber and everyone is just hearing thoughts that mirror their own. But they really want diversity in that classroom, diversity in that thought process, so that they can have this rich and lively discussion, and so that you can be pushed as a student, as a person thinking about how to shape the future of laws by the perspectives of others that you may not have originally considered or even encountered before. That is not to say that a diversity statement has to talk about the law, or even that it should. In fact, some of the most beautiful diversity statements that I've ever read aren't really about the law, but they're really this moment of introspection, this moment where they're looking at their identity, looking at some of their core experiences and reflecting on how it shaped them as a person and how they move through the world differently. And that is what contributes to the law school community. That richness is what is important to the law school. Now, a diversity statement does not have to be an adversity statement. You absolutely can talk about things that you have overcome in a diversity statement, but you do not have to. And it's this moment that I will really reinforce that diversity and the definition of diversity is not limited to stereotypical markers of race and socioeconomics and gender and sexuality and religion, although it absolutely can be about all of those things. It can also be about a particular upbringing or a particular experience that you had. Maybe you were a professional athlete or musician. Maybe you helped raise younger siblings. Maybe you grew up in a unique environment or a particular commune. Maybe there were certain things in your upbringing that shaped and shifted for you. You had one thought and then an experience shifted that, so much so that it's really core and profound to you. What is it that makes you different? What is it that makes your thoughts different? What experiences do you have that others might not have? Maybe you've been in the military or you were a first responder. There are so many different things that you could write about for your diversity statement. And I oftentimes hear students say, well, I'm white. I'm not diverse. Maybe I'm cisgender and I'm Christian. I'm a white male. What on earth can I write about in a diversity statement? This doesn't apply to me. And nothing could be further from the truth. Now, it's possible that you don't have something to write for a diversity statement, and you should never force it. You should never write something because you feel like you have to. I generally do think that most students can write a very good and compelling diversity statement, but it needs to be authentic to you. And if you're feeling like I'm forcing something, I don't have anything, I don't feel like this is for me, then that's okay. Your application can absolutely be complete without the inclusion of a diversity statement. But I would challenge you, as I do always, and I talk about my brainstorming process, I would challenge you to think about all those moments in your life, those significant moments. Oftentimes, when I do talk to students who originally feel this way, and we kind of talk about their life, they've lived something so unique that they might have just brushed aside, or they might have disregarded as being important because it's not what we typically define as diversity. On the flip side, just because you are a very diverse individual, I'm a Black woman, it does not mean that that has to be the center of your diversity statement. My diversity statement was actually on faith and an experience in my family that made me think very differently about my faith and think differently about different identity issues that I had not had to address before. And that was very profound and really shaped the way that I saw the world, and really shaped a lot of how I interact with others. And that's okay. Of course, it came through in my essay that, I go to a predominantly Black church and they know I'm a woman, but that wasn't actually really the center of my diversity statement. No, it can be the center of your diversity statement, but I would caution you to really think about, again, how your perspectives are going to contribute to law school classroom. Even if you are writing a diversity statement about being a Black woman or a Black man or a Black transgender person or a Latinx, an undocumented student, whatever it is, even if you're writing about something that is very much within the confines of diversity statement, make it nuanced, make it unique to you. Your diversity statement should not be able to be written by anyone else. So while it may be tempting to just write a story about a racist incident or being the only one in a room, I would really actually flip that question and ask, how does your diversity affect you? Not just how do others affect you? And that can be part of the story, but I don't think that's the entire story. Being a Black woman is a wonderful thing. It comes with a lot of challenges. And yes, we're not super represented in the legal world. But your diversity statement is not a policy piece or a place to talk about the lack of representation or to talk about systemic racism. But I would be completely remiss if I just said, well, being a Black woman is all about hardship. Because there's so many beautiful things that I enjoy about being a Black woman, so many beautiful things about culture that I could also write about that have also profoundly shaped me. No, I'm not saying not to write about adversity. You absolutely can. And if that's core to your story and core to who you are, I want you to be able to tell it. But you must remember that in a diversity statement, you want to make sure that you are centering yourself. You are not centering an issue or someone else's journey, but you are really centering yourself. And you want to make sure that your diversity statement is not overlapping with your personal statement, that they're not the same issue, that you didn't talk about immigration in your personal statement and talk about immigration in your diversity statement. Diversity, as we define it here, is diversity of thoughts. How do you think differently because of your experiences? So usually you can start off in that first paragraph by defining your diversity, go to the second paragraph by really showing me through that narrative and that examples how it's impacted you, and again in that kind of closing area really talk about that takeaway. And what is that takeaway? It is your diverse perspective. It is how you think and move differently through the world, interact with others differently, have different thoughts about issues because of your experience. It should not just be that you coming to campus will increase the diversity in the numbers of Black students on campus. That actually doesn't really tell me how you think differently and how your perspectives will be. Yes, okay, great, there will be one more Black student in campus, but how are your thoughts going to be different? And again, I want to make sure that no one else can write your diversity statement. So if you've written it and you think someone else could tell this story, I want you to dig a little deeper. Now, there are many different prompts for your diversity statement, and you will see every school asks it a little differently. Some diversity statements are very broad. For example, if you would like the committee to consider your background, life and work experiences, advanced studies, extracurricular or community activities, culture, socioeconomic status, sex, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity or expressions, or other factors would contribute to the diversity of the entering class, and hence to your classmates' law school education experience, you may describe these factors and their relevance in a separate diversity essay. The admissions committee makes every effort to understand your achievements in the context of your background and to build a diverse student body. If applicable, you may choose to submit an optional additional statement to elaborate on how you could contribute to the diversity of the law school community. Candidates may add brief supplemental statements they believe will enable the admissions committee to make a fully informed decision on the application. The committee especially welcomes addenda that allow it to understand the contribution the applicant's background, socioeconomic status, ethnic, religious, or sexual orientation would add to the law school community. All of these are really focused on what your background adds to the law school community, how your perspectives enhance other people's experience, challenge them, what new thoughts do you bring? That is so important when we think about the takeaway here. So I hope that is helpful to you in trying to figure out what a diversity statement is and how you can go about it. Remember that diversity here is diversity of thought, and that diversity is not limited to just stereotypical markers of race, socioeconomic status, gender, sexual identity, orientation, or religion, but it can be so much more broad than that. There are some schools that have more narrowly focused diversity statement prompts, but most schools are very open to a myriad of experiences for your diversity statement. But you want to make sure that that takeaway is strong, that I can really feel like this is something that is core to you, that it's something that's very important to how you see the world, and that that perspective would contribute to the law school community. If you found this video helpful, of course, share it with your friends. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, rate and review, and I cannot wait to see you again, where we will continue to talk about the importance of diversity statements. And if you're looking for even more guidance on your diversity statement, if you just follow the link below, you will see a link to my $27 complete guide to law school application diversity statements. This is a mini course that I've developed just for you, where you can actually read a full guide on diversity statements, get help outlining and choosing stories that would make a good diversity statement, and listen to other sample diversity statements so you can get an idea and a feel for the flavor of what the law schools are looking for in this essay. I wish you all the very best on your law school application process. If you need me, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I will see you very soon.